folks. Hope everybody's doing well, and welcome to episode 2 of Recommend a Record to Review. So, for this episode, I'm going to talk about an album that a couple of you actually recommended. And this is by a guy who I was a huge fan of back in the day because he is on one of my favorite albums of all time. Back when I was learning how to play, and I learned how to play that whole record because it was just a lot of bar chords. I'm talking about Nevermind the Bullocks, and the guitar player, of course, was Steve Jones, who at that point was literally just learning how to play, and the stuff he pulled off on that record is phenomenal. I mean, it's still one of my favorite albums of all time. But the record we're talking about today is uh, Fire and Gasoline, which came out in '89, and he was a solo performer at that point. And he's got a lot of, he had a lot of help on this record. He had Nikki Sixx writing some lyrics for him. He had Duff McKagan on this record. He had the guys from the Cult helping him out. Ian Astbury was doing some backups. Billy Duffy plays a solo on the track, Get Ready. So he had a lot of help. But yeah, let's talk about this album. So this is a real meat and potatoes heavy rock record. Big guitars, big drums. There's not a hint of punk on this record. And even though he did do a cover of Did You Know Wrong by the Pistols, and did a pretty good version of it. I do prefer the original, but there's two covers on here. Also did Suffragette City as a closer, which pretty good version, but you always prefer the originals. But did all right. Um, yeah, a lot of meat and potatoes. He's singing lead on all the tracks. You could tell he was a little bit out of his element. He's not a singer. I mean, he does a competent job. You know, the song, his voice doesn't detract from the songs, but he does a pretty decent job. What I found, I mean, if I look at this album overall, you know, Steve is not a flashy player. He's kind of a real meat and potatoes kind of player, kind of, and the riffs are kind of like that. They're, kind of simple, heavy, you know. His solos are, again, he's not, playing really quick arpeggios or nothing, but he plays what counts. And all in all, for I mean, obviously he's improved as a guitar player from the Sex Pistols days, but yeah, you don't expect him to be a super flashy guy. But I mean, all that aside, the songs they're still pretty good. I hear quite a bit of AC/DC in this, specifically in some tracks. That kind of comes out, that real simple, like three or four chords. It's all chordal riffs that he's doing in this. So, you know, um, the other thing with this record is, you know, a lot of the songs are kind of same sounding because it's the same guitar tone, it's the same, you know just here's a different riff and here's a different song. So there's a lot of that. There's some songs on here that are not memorable, but there are some really killer standout tracks on this. So let's go track by track. So the opening track is Freedom Fighter. um, that one really doesn't do a lot for me. Actually, that one and We're Not Saints, which I believe Nikki wrote the lyrics for, are kind of okay. Heavy drums, heavy riff, and all that. But they just, I don't know, there's just not enough going on there. But the third track, that's when this album really starts to pick up for me. God in Louisiana has got that really cool, you know, thumping bass and then that really nice riff that is very AC/DC-ish, actually, that kind of opens it up. And that's nice because, all the first two songs are kind of over your head, and that one is a kind of a builder, and it does change things up. The title track, Fire and Gasoline, to me, that's kind of like the first two tracks. It doesn't really do a hell of a lot for me. Then you get Hold On. Hold On has got that, again, that cool fill. It's a nice single note riff, and then it's got chords changing behind it. That's a pretty cool tune. The one after that, hang on here. Let's get this. Hold on. Troublemaker. the big heavy opening chords, the AC/DC kind of sounding tune. It's a very good song. With this record, what I find is I'm not too crazy about, say the first few tunes, but then it ends really, really strong. And those songs towards the end, starting with well, I guess God in Louisiana, and then skips one, and then Hold On is great. Troublemaker with the big AC/DC chord sounds really good. Then there's the cover of I Did You Know Wrong, which is just done in a very rock manner. And you can tell Steve's real struggling with those lyrics because you can tell it's a little bit out of his key, but he again competent. He pulls it off. Um, but Get Ready is a very cool tune. I do like that one a lot. I think for me though, the highlight of this whole record is "Gimme Love." Um, that's just a really, really great song. And I was talking earlier about Steve's lead playing. The solo on that is is fantastic. It's just killer. It's a great, great lead. The some really good playing on that, really good song. That's probably my favorite on here. Wild Wheels is pretty good, another pretty decent song. And then Leave Your Shoes On. I really dig that one a lot. It's a little different than the other tracks on here. Um, it's pretty catchy. The lyric content is pretty cool. And then he closes it with a cover of Suffragette City, which is okay. I mean, it's just a heavier version, and I do prefer the original. I mean, the two covers I prefer the originals, but they're pretty good. They're pretty good covers. So all in all, um, it's a pretty straightforward kind of heavy guitar, heavy drum. There's no ballads on here. You know, there's a little bit of diversity. I mean, there's, you know, but for the most part, it's just heavy riffs, right? And with heavy riffs, if you like the riff, you'll like the song. If you're not crazy for the riff, then you know you're not really going to get into the song. So I would say that this is probably, I don't know how many tracks are on here. I think 12. I'd say out of the 12, maybe 6 or 7 are good, and a couple are really, really good. And for me, the best track, like I say, is "Gimme Love," and "Leave Your Shoes On," I think is kind of cool. So there you go. A pretty decent effort from Steve. And Yeah, there you go. So I mean, if I was to rank this record out of 5, say, I would probably give it about a 3.5 out of 5. Yeah. Good album though. Overall, good album. So if you like what you see, please consider the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and let me know what you would like me to review next. I wanted, first of all, before I do that, I want to thank you for, I had all kinds of recommendations on the first episode. Obviously, I can't do them all. Please don't get upset if I don't choose yours. Just to give you an idea what I'm looking for, basically something that's in my wheelhouse, just a record that I can listen to a few times and tell you my thoughts. If you're suggesting double records or entire catalogs, obviously I can't do that. But something that's in my wheelhouse, a single album, and it's got to be something that I haven't already done a show on, a band I haven't already done a show on. And at this point, I've done quite a few shows. If you want to see the shows that I've done, rating shows with Pete Martin or just on my own, check out the reviews playlist that I have. So yeah, if you like what you see, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe. If you want to support the channel, there's links below, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Cheers.